And welcome to a Sunday live stream. You know, I did a few of these in the colder months because it was not pleasant outside. Now that I have damaged, this is my right arm, I've got my sling unlatched. But yes, follow vlog Thursday 341. I was in a motorcycle accident. I have the details in there. Self-inflicted off-roading. So I type a little bit slower, but I'm actually able to get my arm out of the sling now, so I can get my fingers on the keyboard going a little bit faster. And I will cover something. I see a question already in here, but we'll ask some questions. This is not I put the ZimaBoard in here, but it's not a review of the ZimaBoard. It'll be something that I want to talk about, though, is this device. I have one set up and I've been testing it actually for maybe 2 months. I got distracted with the merger and everything, so I didn't really finish it, but it's been running and doing things. It's still running and doing things. Matter of fact, it's still running TrueNAS right now. I think this is a really clever single board computer, so I figure we'll talk a little bit about it. I am not, this is not a review. More, this is me asking you, what would you like me to do in the review? Because I have a few notes on it and I'm going to talk about it. Maybe I'll try different operating systems, but first one I want to try was TrueNAS. Next one I'm going to try that. I already know it works because my friends at Two Guys Tech did this. Works great with pfSense as well, so that'll just answer that question right away that a lot of people have. Well, can it run pfSense? Yes. Matter of fact, because it's a, sorry, I have a hair that went down my back, and when you only have one arm, I have limited range in my other arm because of the broken bones. uh I have the back scratcher handy because I can't reach one side of me. I just can't reach. There are limitations to my mobility right now, which is actually why I'm doing a live stream, because I can't go anywhere. So I was like, I should just hang out with all the people online. Also, let me know how you like these live streams. I know they're a little bit random, but I think I'm trying to be helpful with everyone in here, and I love answering questions and getting people in the community excited about all this. Hey, Lawrence, big fan of your channel. We love the concept of SolarWinds MSP backup and the 4 names it's been called along the way. I would love an alternative, but the functionality, that is, yes, that is the challenge. It's a good product. We don't use it anymore, but the functionality of the product was awesome. The functionality of SolarWinds was less awesome, and then they became Enable, and I don't even know what they renamed the backup, and it's got a name I can't remember right now. I would say it is hard to beat. And if you're happy with it, you know how to use it, you've done restores with it, stick with it. Since the merger, we have 2 backup platforms, but we haven't figured out which one. I mean, I know we're not getting rid of Veeam because that's what the team at CNWR uses, and they've got that deployed to a lot of places. But we use MSP 360 and it works, and it's deployed at a lot of places for us. So we haven't really decided if we're getting rid of MSP 360, but both products work. We've done restores with both products, so it's a good functional system. And I don't really have an answer for something that works as smooth and as nice as there. The one thing that they had a big advantage of is their dashboard. It's just nice. Last I looked at it, I don't know. We haven't used a product in over a year. Cove. Yeah, that's the new name. Cove. Yeah, I don't know. Veeam is great, but expensive. Yeah, for sure. Tom, what about that new AMD PC teases recently? I put one on Amazon cart multiple times, holding off until you do the review. Yes, I'm working on. So I brought these things home. Home is my studio, by the way. I was going to review them at the office, and then with this injury, I'm like, I just got to get this done, and that's still sitting on my desk. But I want to do. I've had the Zima longer, and so I brought the ZimaBoard up first. But I'm going to get this review done probably in the next day or two. It's just, I'm not going to do anything in depth on it. I think it's pretty novel. I'm really happy with it. This is just a neat little box, and I get some of the excitement about it because it's just well made, well funded on Kickstarter. I fired it up and it just worked. Now, one of the things I really like about it, and I'm tempted, I need no more distractions, but this is just distracting me. I kind of want to test it with OpenWRT just to test it. You know, I don't use OpenWRT, so it's kind of like one of those things, like I can't replace pfSense with it because I have too much functionality that I'm relying on in pfSense. But I could probably at least give it a test and put a computer behind it and just see how it goes. So I'm curious because I haven't played with OpenWRT in 5-10 years. it might be kind of novel on there. But nonetheless, this box is really cool. I'll get the review done of this. I've currently got it running a TrueNAS. This is actually the ZimaBoard running this. And functionality wise, it's great. Now, I thought it was funny when I brought this up before because I think I got a picture of it somewhere. I got a video I can pull up of it. So let's share this tab. But for people wondering, it's definitely it's plugged in right now, so I can't really. But I've got a card in it that has 5 SATA ports, and I got 4 drives plugged into it. It works fine for that from a use case. So I'll be, like I said, I'll be doing a review of that on there. Can you run Proxmox on TrueNAS? That's a terrible idea. I would run Proxmox or, but not and. Proxmox is fine. TrueNAS is fine. Both of those are going to be software that you would prefer to have access to the bare metal. It's not that you can't do it. But I don't think it's a great idea. It's generally just a lot more buggy. It's one of those things like especially if you're a new home user, you don't want to dive in on the deep end. If you're an experienced tech, you're not probably here asking me that question because you already know how to do it. But there's just a lot on there that can be a challenge. No, the add-on card does not power the drives. That's one of the things. This is going to be like a proof of concept messy thing I made, not a not really a like practical. This is your true low powered NAS. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a separate video for a low powered NAS, but it's not going to be this device. It's not. You'd have to print too many things and stuff like that. Mostly, I just think it's a really cool little affordable box, especially when you talk about things like the Raspberry Pi not being really available. And the other cool thing about the ZimaBoard is the fact that it, well, not just the availability of it, but also the fact that it is x86. That's words. That's struggling for the letters. x86. The nice thing about x86 is going to be way more compatibility. Have you tried the CasaOS, the one that comes with a ZimaBoard? I have not. And I was really looking at this. So I think CasaOS looks really cool. But I have a problem, kind of. Well, it's the way it handles drives. And right now, the RAID support is missing. That's the best way I could describe it. So if you put a few drives in this, and this is one of the things. I mean, I'm going to set this up. Maybe we'll set it up here on the live stream. And it's just one of those things. Like I kind of don't understand why it doesn't have any RAID support in there. I always like to make sure that not only will this do the thing we hope it does, but it will do that thing and have an easy way to back up and restore your config. Because it's all cool that you get things set up. I'd like to make sure you have a good layer of resiliency or easy process to back things up and easy process to restore things. And I haven't really evaluated that with CasaOS yet. But if I like that feature of it, I think that'd be kind of a cool thing. But yeah, CasaOS is definitely, I think it's a really neat project. I really like it from what I've seen, but I haven't actually used it. So I will kind of preface that with some caveats here of it looks cool. I've seen some people do videos on it, but I don't know if it actually is cool. Is there a PCI card as far as 2 NVMEs? Probably, but I don't know why you'd, I mean, other than NVMEs of not as expensive as they used to be, but I don't know why you'd want an NVMe on there because it doesn't have any ports to get the data out as fast as those NVMEs would be. And the other limitation is it's not a really fast processor. So I've got just regular SSDs hooked up to it. A TrueNAS VM and Proxmox can work with pass-through drives, probably a Homelab setup rather than production builds. Yeah, I certainly would never run that in production. Oh, cool. So awesome, Dakota, that you're going to be doing that as well. Yeah, I think it's just really cool. Security is still on the roadmap, but far down it because it's such an extensive video. But I'm hoping to get it done sooner than later. It's just an extensive video to dive into. Got a question about new UniFi Magic Bridge. What it's called? How is it different from normal VPN? The only thing different is it sets up the VPN for you. So that's what makes it different. It uses their server to actually, you know what? I can pull that up here. Um, it uses their cloud server in order to coordinate the connections. So let me, how do I switch back to me? There we go. Oh, there's no way to, is there a way to present this? Whatever. Anyways, it has the firewalls talking to, and this is what I said. My video, I described this in the latest video. I use this same graphic. It, simply put, it talks to the UniFi cloud server to do this automatically, but it's nothing you can't set up yourself. It's just doing some automation when it does it. So you don't have to try and figure out which connections are where. I hate that they call it hackable SPS because there's really nothing hackable about it. Well, I think the hackable is a great buzzword, but you're right. It's not any more or less hackable than other devices. Technically, I could grab any computer with a PCI slot and say hackable. I don't, yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit of marketing hype on there. I hope they bring 2.5 gig network ports. Actually, doesn't the Zima have, let me find it. Pull it up here. I'm pretty sure the ports are 2.5 gig. Ooh, what's the Zima Blade? I'm just curious now. They have another product. Oh, cool. Spiffy. Look at that. Gigabyte Ethernet. They have a fancy site. All right, let me go back to the one we're doing over here. So you want the ZimaBoard. Specifications. Here we go. No, memory, TDP. There we go. Okay, yeah, they're only gigabit. They're not 2.5 gig on this. Okay. So, nothing real impressive. 2 1 gig ports, which I think is fine for a single board computer. The port speed is usually not your issue with them. It's not like you need it to be super fast. That's, it's usually focusing more so on like low power applications, especially when you want to use it for something like this. I think, among other things, using it for pull this up here. Things like this make a lot of sense. Like if you wanted to, yeah, I don't think the processor can keep up with 2.5 gig. But if you wanted to use it for something like Home Assistant, that would be really cool. And I think that would be pretty, like a great use case for it would be like, hey, let's use this for home assistants. I wish there'd be more mini PCs with ECC RAM. Very hard to find some. I don't know why you want ECC RAM for mini PCs. Why would you want the more expensive memory? I don't get for a home PC. You know what I mean? I'm not diminishing the value ECC brings to the table. I'm diminishing the value I see it in the home lab or small environments. It just doesn't feel necessary. It's it doesn't seem like that's a problem. In the years and years ago, in my early days of tech, ECC memory was popular because problems with memory was popular too. Therefore, we'd like to use ECC to mitigate some of those issues that you may have. You just don't see those issues like you used to. Hardware's become like substantially more reliable here in 2023 and all the years leading up to it, that it's just outstanding how reliable hardware is. So I don't worry about things like, oh no, I don't have, ECC memory in here. Am I at risk of losing all my data? Probably not. Ever look at Minis forum? EM680. Which one? Let's look up that one real quick. EM6. I know there's one of them that were challenging to find that had 10 gig SFP on it. It's the network connection sometimes. If you're trying to find something with a faster connection, I see this one. There's a few people have reviewed it. Looks like Anantech has a review. What's the speed on here? Let's make it bigger. Wireless HDMI. Am I looking right past the network connection? Audio, wireless. Where's the network connectivity? I'm probably looking right at it and just somehow don't see it. Wireless storage, memory, graphics, processor. Seems like they have missed the network connectivity other than the fact that they have Wi-Fi on here. USB Gen 2. Okay, it's just not on here. Does someone have it on their list? Because that seems like that'd be an important thing. Looks cool, though. Would be good if there was a Tailscale integration with UniFi, given they have WireGuard and a stack now. But it doesn't seem to be as fast as DB-based Tailscale connections. Yeah, I never looked to see which WireGuard they implemented within the UniFi system. I say it like that because there's WireGuard in the kernel or there's WireGuard Go. I don't know what implementation they're using. I actually didn't look. Misinformed, knocking it out of the park. Yeah, there's some cool companies with coming up with these mini PCs and low-powered PCs are definitely pretty cool. In the enterprise servers, you get a lot of ECC memory. That's still going to be pretty much the default in your enterprise systems. I just don't really see the push for it in the Homelab. Even if PF sense makes sense, the chipset that Netgate has is 189 as ARM processor. Yeah, that's the whole thing too. You may as well buy the Netgate device because it's about the same price if you get the 1100. Have you? I don't have Intune, but would need to disable if you tinkered with hardening Office. Nope, not my wheelhouse. We, as a business, we do that. And we got a team of people that know how to do that. Tom is not on that team or have any interest in that team. Could I muddle through the documents? Probably. Will I? Nope. I just don't care enough about configuring all the Office 365 settings. I have no interest in it. Like, I know it needs to be done. I have an interest in other people doing it is probably the best way I can describe that. Finding 10 gig FSE is always the main hurdle. I went to HP, which has a PCI expansion, great Homelab system for me to play with XTPNG. It'd be kind of cool to build a mini system that actually had a bunch of 10 gig connectors on it because the mini systems generally have good fast processors, but don't have really good options for hard drives. So instead of your storage options being some of the limitation, hey, set up a central storage server, build a little cluster, leave your storage somewhere else, but then have really fast connectivity to that storage. That seems like a pretty ideal way to use them. That's why I was kind of hoping to find some that had some 10 gig connectors on there, but those ones are still pretty pricey, and I haven't found anything, like I said, exactly that fits that mix as much as I'd like it to. I wonder how hard it would be to load CasaOS while we're doing the live stream, because why not, right? I think it'll work on Ubuntu 22. I think I have Ubuntu 22. Let's fire up my Ubuntu 22. And maybe we'll load Casa on this. Two and a half gig just makes you angry. Why not go 10? I don't know how you would go about it. Like I said, not my wheelhouse to talk about Office things. Is it possible to pass ISP connections through managed switch over one Cat 6? My rack is in my home office. An ISP is in a closet. Want to move my router. I don't. I mean, you can pass it through. You can create like VLANs for it that you pass it through. We've done that where we partition out a switch to bring in, because of the way the network is piped into a company, we've had to split that across networks. It's something that does happen sometimes, so it can be done. The thing you have to make sure, because we've watched it be done wrong, that you don't mix things up and create yourself a security problem. Casa is a little limited in your view. Okay. Very easy to install. Okay. What's the catch behind cheap network 10 gig cards like the TX401? Is it really much better, much more expensive than X502? So if you start looking at one, you can usually find them. Let's pull them up on Amazon, for example. You can get the Intel ones really cheap now because they're the older models. Intel 10 gig NIC. I'll share this tab real quick. Oh, here's one I bought. So I bought these for a project. You can pick up these on Amazon right now, and you're talking here. I'll drop the link to it in case you just want to know, because I actually bought a few of these, and I think I bought, how many did I buy? I think I bought 4 of them for a project last year. It's these ones here. So the catch is the newer models have newer drivers and things like that, but also look in the details of the features. Sometimes there's certain hardware offload features and things like that that may or may not be available depending on the card. So this, though, is a pretty modern card. For $89, you're getting the X540 T2. I think it's it's a PCI 8X 10 gig PCI with dual 10 gig copper. And if you don't need copper, they have this collection here. Here we go. It's only $5 more to get the one X520 DA2, which is going to be the one with your 10 gig connections on it. But if you need something like SRI or V and the motherboard supports it and the card supports it, well, that's going to be different. It's probably going to be more expensive and more modern and newer card. Which RAID card can be used for TrueNAS Scale? You should never use a RAID card for TrueNAS Scale or Core. So neither one of that's one of those problems that a lot of people run into, is you never want to use a RAID card. You want to use a host bus adapter, something that's going to pass the drives through to TrueNAS. TrueNAS interacts directly with the drives. More specifically, ZFS interacts directly with the drives, not with a RAID card. That's where a lot of people make mistakes and have all kinds of goofy problems that are TrueNAS, is because they have some type of RAID card in there. What can I do to have better battery life in my Fedora Silverblue? I tried Auto Z and it didn't seem to do much compared to Pop! OS in terms of battery life. I don't have many hints there because I don't run into that problem. I run Pop! OS and I just haven't had any battery life issues or done any testing to see if I switched to a different OS, I would have different battery life. So it's not something I tune. I just let the OS do what it needs to do. Generally, the best way I've always found saving battery life is close a bunch of browser tabs, because there's always some browser tab pulling some thing in the background. Also, how many apps I'm running on the system, I try to eliminate those if I'm trying to increase battery life, but I've never really sat down and tried to do any processor tuning on it. You made an exact replica of Labert. Yeah, the our system here. Actually, let me log into this. Did I get the password right? Maybe? Yes. Look at that. Did I get the password right twice? Nope. Felt like I mistyped it. Bare metal restore solution, MSP 360 or Acronis. I think Acronis is a good product. I really dislike the dashboard in Acronis. I found it very cluttered and hard to use. So did my team. That's why we stuck with MSP 360. So I just didn't find it to be as wonderful as I thought it could be. I don't think Acronis was a bad product in terms of work, but work is only part of it. When you manage things at scale, you want it to work. There's, first checkbox, does it work? Second checkbox, can I manage this thing? Because if things are hard to manage and hard to deal with, it's just going to not be a good product experience. Oh, it's waiting me to say yes. Where does this thing live? Where's the disk at? Okay, this is on the lab. Cool. All right, let's stop it. When was the last time I backed this thing up? May 2nd. Been a minute since I backed up the template. Let's go ahead and kick off a template backup. Then we'll fork it, and then we'll load CasaOS on it while we're sitting here. They did a live stream on it. Matter of fact, we can look at their blog and see what they got. Is the blog live yet? Nope. It's still not live yet. I don't know why it's not live yet. So they haven't released it. They have a live stream on I don't know. There wasn't anything incredible about the last update, but long term, I think is September is going to be their new UI release. I think they said that, and I watched the live stream, but now I've forgotten some of it. I didn't take notes. I just figured I'll read it in the blog because I read more than I watch YouTube. I use YouTube is not my main source of information in terms of like what's going on with Zen. I'm usually the one making the videos, which means I spend a lot of time reading in the forums and reading in the blog posts. Is it okay to use same SSH keys across different computers? I've been doing that for a couple months, years. Not sure it's good practice. Well, my public key is all over the place. So if you're saying that you are maintaining your private key in a very secure way, but you're pushing your public key to many systems, yeah, that's fine. The challenge is if you ever lose your private key, do you know everywhere that private key, if it was lost, could unlock? So key management is not it's not easy, but it's important to understand what those systems are. For example, we have a common LTS private key that is what we use so we can use our jump box to be able to get to several other things that we've set up for clients with our keys in it. And we got a password on our key. So by the way, if you have a private key, please have a password on that private key. So if anyone ever stole the key, one, I know I have to re-roll things if something happened on my private key, but second, I have a password on my private key. So they'd have to know both of those pieces of information. So it's further mitigation, but yeah, it's not a big deal. Sometimes you may want to create though different private keys for special projects, especially if they're temporary. That way you're just mitigating risk, but that can be a little bit challenging to manage. Because the 1 gig is just what's displayed, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's displayed in there. Actually, let's clone this. But it doesn't matter what it thinks it's connected at. It's about what transfer speed you get out of it. I think you've posted that question in there's tons of people that posted that question in the XCP&G forums, and there's several 2 or 3 at least write-ups on why that doesn't matter. CasaOS demo. What network do we want to put this on? It's on the lab network, so that'll be fine. There we go. Now we have an Ubuntu 2204 CasaOS demo. Anyone know how to crawl most popular websites to check if you had an account there? Go there and look. Yeah, the speed at which they show connected just doesn't matter. So when we log into this Ubuntu system, which actually I'm going to do it with a terminal. Because now we got to log in. What's the IP address it got? So we'll go here to networking, click copy. All right, now switch where I'm sharing. So stop sharing that. Present, share screen, window. That looks like the right one. Make it a little bigger. There we go. And we'll do the thing that I would probably tell most people not to do, but I don't feel like doing it the hard way. So let's find CasaOS. Started. Quick setup. We're just gonna do this. I think it. I'm assuming it'll auto. Right, cool. If you wonder why I typed sudo ls is a lazy thing, now I won't get asked again if it prompts for sudo. And it's going. It's doing a thing. What's my go-to UPS? I did a whole long video on UPS. So I like the ones in that video, but I don't have a go-to, especially when availability was tight on some things. And so it was less of an issue. You can use system like HashiCorp Vault to manage SSH keys. Yeah, that's kind of the common solution is HashiCorp Vault. That's why I said it's not easy. It's not like HashiCorp Vault is something for everyone, but it is something you can get set up. I already know like a few of my friends use, I think it's Chef and Puppet to manage all the SSH keys. Oh, look, it's working. Open my browser to the above address. Fair enough. That was fast. Now I got to share the other screen. So stop. You guys are watching me install it all in real time here. Create your account. Username, Tom, password. We went real complicated on this. It'll get destroyed and I'll set it up later. Why not? Cool. All right. Well, it works. Storage. Let's go to the apps. Let's start putting things in here. What can we put in? What was the first thing? Oh, we can do a chatbot, ChatGPT. This is some neat stuff here. Duplicati, file browser, Home Assistant. Nice. Here's a question. If we install Home Assistant, let's go ahead and click on install on this. Oh, and Sync Thing was in this list. I really like Sync Thing, so install that too. Oh, failed to open. ProcNet TCP6. What does that mean? Anyone know what that means? Yeah, we're playing with CasaOS. Yeah, password 123456. Yep. Still trying to learn. Anyone why don't use Radius server for wired or Wi-Fi networks for SMB need Radius server for their Wi-Fi for VLAN? There's reasons you use it where the user authenticates and it puts them on the VLAN you want, for example, based on their credentials. So that's one of the reasons you may use it. Do you think AI will put OSs for technical setups without needing support? I don't know. I haven't seen until AI gets accurate. No. Is there a password I can use and manage for him, if not recommendations? You could set up Bitwarden and have someone else using it, and this is not the most secure. It's not a recommended way, but this is a way to solve your problem. For example, I do have an aging father as well. So I manage my dad's passwords. It's the only way because he will lose them. So as long as dad doesn't change his master password and you know dad's master password, you can have them all in there. You can manage them. You can set them. Just tell dad not to change his master password. But sometimes you get lucky. The fact that aging dad doesn't want to go through the complexity of changing a master password. So you're good. Give it a reboot. I don't know. One password works well across multiple devices. Broken app. I had a couple weird errors on the apps. Yeah, I don't know. The what sync program did Techno Tim use? Because I've been using SyncThing for like 5, 6, 10 years, maybe. It might be longer. I don't know how long I've been using it, but I'll have to look. At least I've been doing videos about SyncThing for almost 5 years. Google says it's a firewall issue. Oh, okay. Let's try rebooting first. So I rebooted that server. So we'll watch it reboot. Does it say how to solve my firewall issue or just disable firewall? You mentioned time back that you paid Bitwarden privately and VaultWarden for the company. Huh? We don't use VaultWarden, we use Bitwarden. VaultWarden's a different back end for Bitwarden. We buy enterprise licenses. Now, we all merged Bitwarden. We merged the Lawrence Systems Bitwarden and now CNWR. So we're all on Bitwarden. Everybody in the company is on Bitwarden. I'm actually probably going to do a video about that. IP tables save. Where'd my costs? Sudo it says the firewall's turned off. So that's not it. Nope, I prefer to support the project. I know VaultWarden's, there's all those weird things. Like I've seen people, someone put a request in like Invoice Ninja. I use Invoice Ninja. Someone actually wanted to use Invoice Ninja, but wanted to not pay $20 a year for an open source tool. And it's like a donation to them because all it says is powered by Invoice Ninja, but for $20 a year. Someone actually was complaining that I was not covering that, their code request of, hey, Tom, you should show how to remove the powered by Ninja. I'm like, yes, you can go into the code and remove it, but at some point give the developers a few dollars. And that's how I feel about Bitwarden. There's a lot of effort that's gone into Bitwarden. So using a different backend, I mean, if you're a home user and you want to use it, but actively promoting a different backend, I don't know. Are you using OBS for swapping screens or shared with YouTube? It's super clean. Oh, I'm doing this with StreamYard. Solved a bit on UniFi versus pfSense firewall. Is it worth running pfSense as a transparent bridge to have best of both worlds? I don't think so. And is my Suricata vid from a few years ago still a solid guide? Yeah, there's not enough changes in Suricata, so my older video is still correct. I don't know. I have a video, but I don't know why you do it. I did a video because so many people ask and they just want to keep, especially if you already have the controller on there, there's reasons you may want to not get rid of it, but running a dual firewall is always it's a fun learning experience. So outside of being a learning experience, it's not something I'd recommend. I'm wondering if Asus Merlin firmware is good enough for the home use, or should I get pfSense hardware firewall in the future? I would say, yeah, definitely go with something like pfSense. If you're getting into networking, you want better control over your network, I would definitely lean towards full pfSense. Asus Merlin is great for Asus routers and unlocks a few features within them. I know like the OpenWRT project has actually got a lot better. I'm distracted trying to figure out this. So ProcNet UDP6 failed to open. ProcNet UDP 6 CasaOS. What is that error mean? These are really old posts. This isn't helping me at all. Huh. So is it Firewall? Custom install. Is it because it wants me on HTTPS maybe? Let's try that. That's interesting. You can't even do HTTPS. Huh. Well, I'm liking CasaOS a whole lot less. I might be bored with this and delete it already. I haven't run Windows in over 10 years or more. So probably definitely more. I think I got rid of Windows around 2008. I've been Linux on a desktop for a long time. Thanks for turning on an Invoice Ninja. Great product. Been using sysadmin for 25 years. Retired from that gig and started my own business a few years ago in Michigan. Awesome. Oh, you're but not on the southwest side of Michigan. Cool. Can clients from routed subnets behind Tailscale with exposed subnets connect to each other, or can only catch the Tailscale clients? Can't find that in manual. So when you're setting up Tailscale, and matter of fact, I think I could probably log into it here so we can actually show you. You decide which routes Tailscale can or cannot get to. So here's an example. Share this tab. Let's go back to something that works. I'm going to destroy Casa. I've already quit caring because it wasn't, I don't know. It seems like that should be an obvious problem. So here is my Tailscale being enabled. Here are the advertised routes. If you do not advertise routes, you can't get to other routes. So it is implicit that you advertise them. It doesn't get to pivot off of those unless you say, hey, this device should advertise these routes. And it's not just the device. You have to allow the advertising of routes inside of Tailscale. So first you tell Tailscale, hey, I like this device to be able to advertise routes. And then you go to the device and you say which routes you're going to advertise. And that's what allows the Tailscale nodes, the other ones, to get to these. I'm doing this inside of pfSense. That way my pfSense advertises just these two routes that I want it to be able to get to. And this allows access to the different things so they can be reached. Yeah, Serve the Home did that article on that. I don't remember what the availability was on them. I think they were like back ordered for a little while because I was wanting to buy one when they did the video and then I didn't. And then it was hard to find and it might be easier to find now. The app TT mentioned was Files Drop. I wouldn't call it sync the alternative. Just looks like a simple way to get, picks off your phone. Okay. In my work, I had the headache of sharing Wi-Fi passwords throughout the QR code scan. What is the solution for this? And could you do a demo about pfSense Radius WPA2 Enterprise? The demand is low there's very few people that I think would even watch the video for how much time it would take me to do it. And most of the time, if we're doing WPA, we're not tying it to Radius inside of pfSense. So clients sometimes have Radius servers and we'll do that integration with like UniFi and that. It's a long, extensive video that I don't know how much value it would bring. That's always the challenge I have when I'm deciding which videos to make and which ones not to make is who's going to watch this. And especially when a video has a lot of effort and hours put into it, I go, it's only going to get 3,000 views, maybe 2,000. So I kind of balance it out. Should my time be spent on something else? Now, the exceptions to that are, of course, when I make videos on like some of this, I did a talk at a conference and I made that talk public knowing that that talk would not get a lot of views, but I'd already put the effort in because I was speaking at the conference to do the talk. So I don't know if I'm going to do a video on that topic or not. Not until I get through kind of like my backlog of other things. Who of your YouTube friends went to LTX? All of them. I've got some serious FOMO. I was going to go and I decided not to. And I'm kind of glad I did, because if I would have gotten the motorcycle accident, I would have had to cancel it anyways. But the problem is with the merger, I didn't know how, because you have to kind of plan that in advance to go all the way to Vancouver because things sell out fast. And with the merger going on, I didn't want to not be available to get things done. So I said, I'm just going to skip it. But now that in some ways I'm much more of a full-time creator, I still been doing a lot of consulting, but I'm a lot of more full-time creator. So I plan to go to some more of those events. Techno Tim did not go. So Jay from Learn Linux TV and Techno Tim, I think are the only people I hang out with on YouTube that I know and talk to on a regular basis that didn't go. By the way, and I don't know this is for as much true. I don't know where Techno Tim lives, but me and Jay live right here in Michigan. And so it's quite the challenge for us. While the Zima seems nice, it seems a bit hard to embrace since the CPU is kind of EOL. Tempted to pick one up, but hesitating. I will tell you the Zima runs the TrueNAS box here quite well, but not fast, so well enough. And it's probably not the best use case for it. I just wanted to see if it was a viable use case to set this up and plug some hard drives into it. And it worked. So I do have a RAID Z2 set up. Why is it set up Z2? It should be set up Z1. Whatever, it's set up. So I do have this up and running with, what processor is it? It's an Intel Celeron N3450 at 1.1 gigahertz. It's not a screaming fast processor, but it is a functional. I do like that one of my staff members set this up, and they called the pool billiards. I get it. I guess if you'd probably have to be in the US to understand it. We refer to the game billiards also as pool here in the United States. So that is funny. I did this on both sides. My home PC could not access subnet on Azure behind the Tailscale host, but the Tailscale host could access my home PC. Yeah, it's got to be something you had in the rules that aren't right. Now, I don't know what's not right in the rules because I'm not looking at them, but yes, that's definitely an issue. Is there a way to pass live audio to a server stream at other house devices? I think it's going to be very dependent on what software you're using to stream. Have you done your pfSense 2.7 review? I read the changes. Not sure I need it more than vulnerabilities. I would definitely upgrade to it. PHP is end of life on the old versions of pfSense. I see no reason not to go to 2.7. You should be on 2.7. Matter of fact, it's funny because someone contacted us for support, and the problem you're going to run into is you can't get package updates. If your add-ons that you have inside of pfSense require an update, that's going to break because they're not going to be maintaining the old packages. So you need to upgrade to the latest version or don't use pfSense. Like, I don't recommend not updating things. That's just like a terrible idea. And pfSense is pretty solid for updates. Like, over the years, there's been minimal amounts of hiccups. And even when there were hiccups in the update process, the restore process, which I've covered in more than one video, is so simple with pfSense, where you just grab that XML file, reload your pfSense with a clean install, pop in your XML file, and it just goes right back to working. It's just great. Yeah, the Protectly boxes are not bad. They're definitely a nice little option. I have a rack with a PowerEdge X20s and have been looking to decommission, replace them with something smaller footprint. I may look into Nux to that breaks the bank, so it's hopeful for the Zima. Yeah, it comes down to what do you need. If you look at my TrueNAS, and I've talked about this when I did, well, let's talk about a couple of my TrueNASs. I have a few of them here. Where's my other TrueNAS? Let's log into my oldest TrueNAS. My slowest, most painfully slow TrueNAS. Come on, we're getting there. It serves its purpose to be a second copy of all of my videos and a few other things that run on here. But here's my 2-core Intel Atom C338. We got just a wild 1.5 gigahertz and 2 threads. And you're probably thinking, Tom, what do you do with that? Well, it's actually not even using all of the storage, just a backup. I'm only using about 20% of it. It's got 20 terabytes of storage. It's just backups for everything. I like to keep, I have an offsite copy, but this is my second onsite copy of all my data, all my ZFS data. It works fine. Does it take a long time to send data to it? A little bit. So it comes down to what's your use case. Do you, I don't easily recommend servers without first asking, what are you going to use them for? What do you need? And even my other TrueNAS here is not that fast either. So if we pull up this TrueNAS, this is also an Intel Atom. Now, this is a newer Atom. This is the Intel C3758. And this has a 10 gig card in it. And it edits. This is all my video editing for my entire production of my YouTube channel is done on this. And at the same time, if you go over to the apps, it also runs SyncThing on it. I love SyncThing for synchronizing all my data in real time. I got net data on here. Oh, look, I got fresh RSS and there's an update to it. So while we're sitting here, let's go ahead and upgrade fresh RSS. It runs the things I needed to run. I've been trying to use Nextcloud more to do an updated, like what my thoughts are on Nextcloud. So for my thoughts on Nextcloud, though, is going to be Nextcloud's not as mobile friendly as Google Docs, but is what it is. Oh, happy Sysadmin Day. Yes. It's been a couple years, but I don't think there's anything to revisit. Maybe there is because people get excited. It's certainly an anger-inducing thing because people are so polarized on this. I'm not. I don't understand this because I was having this discussion with someone today about Linux. They were arguing about Linux desktops and wanted my opinion. I was chatting with friends, and I'm like, use the one that makes you happy. But Tom, you have to have an opinion. Yeah, I run Pop OS. Don't you hate GNOME? No. Well, I hate GNOME. You should hate GNOME. And other people who also hated GNOME were telling me I should hate GNOME. And I'm like, why? I don't get it. Like, but I don't really, it's like Pop OS works. I know where all the shortcuts are and it does the things I want it to do. I think very little about some of those things. And for the most part, other than OpenSense not having, my big challenge at OpenSense has been there's too many updates. And because we commercially use pfSense, I don't know, and I don't want to say that I've had problems with OpenSense. People have had problems with OpenSense and contacted us. And the problems we see might be lack of documentation. We don't know why it was behaving the way it was. We know how to solve that problem with pfSense, and we switched them to pfSense, and the problem was solved. But I don't know if it was a knowledge gap I had in OpenSense. I do know Googling to solve the problem didn't solve the problem, and I didn't feel like doing a forum post. We just loaded pfSense and got the problem solved. So it kind of comes down to, is it better? I don't know. Homelab people love it. I don't, I'm fine. I don't see a reason not to use it. But I don't like constant levels of updates. I like the more concise updates you get out of the Netgate pfSense product. Collabra. Yes. Collabra is installed as well. Let's make sure. Oh, this is still updating, deploying. But yep, Collabra is right here. With ZFS and pfSense, do you recommend upgrade or fresh install to 2.7? I mean, if you already got ZFS, upgrade should be fine. Always back things up. Probably remove packages. Now, removing packages, the default setting on to remove a package allows you to reinstall and all the settings come back, but that's sometimes a problem you run into is packages may have problems. But if you remove them before upgrade, you'll eliminate that problem. Fresh install is nice though, because it's going to be a nice, fresh, clean install, but that's kind of up to you. Is it a pain in the neck to switch UDM Pro to pfSense Firewall or Home Solution or SMB? Does pfSense have the capability to access it remotely? I don't know. It's a different platform, so the learning curve between them, there's no import export between either of these platforms. So it depends how complicated your rule sets are. That would be the best way to describe that. Yeah, I'm not home labbing as heavy as I used to so much. Just primary TrueNAS is my primary backup for the house. Nextcloud, Pi-hole for redundancy. Power Edge are now complete overkill, and probably overkilling your power budget and heat budgets. Let's make sure this works. So continue. Hey, it didn't explode. Great. Let's update Nextcloud now. Upgrade. UDM with the latest 3 software is pretty good if you're going to be setting up for some things and walk. Yeah, I mean, I think the Unified Dream Machine's much better. That's why I did that updated video. I think it's become a much better product than it used to be. So definitely, they've come a long way because they were doing things just stupid. They came up with their own way of doing OpenVPN. They tied it to their cloud. And I'm like, why? How much engineering time did you waste instead of trying to dominate the market more? I just don't get it. Like you came up with, hey, everyone's doing VPN this pretty common sense way. Let's just be weird and cloud enable our VPN. And then, oh man, we had some cloud problems. Oh, everyone's VPN can't work while we're having cloud problems. That's dumb. I'm glad they finally have seen the light and realized they're not clever enough. They did not have an original idea. They just had bad ideas for VPN. But hey, they came around to it, and now they've gone all the way the other way. They've had a really good idea for VPN with their magic site-to-site, as it's called. Open Sense for you. Hey, whatever works for you. Open Sense, like I said, I don't know any reason you shouldn't run it. As long as it works for the things you want it to do and it makes you happy, absolutely. It's not like a product, like if you said, hey, Tom, Synology or QNAP, I have opinions because QNAP has just terrible history of just really bad security vulnerabilities. Therefore, I would say, hey, make sure you never publicly expose your QNAP because it's got a history of bad security, blah, blah, blah. So, but when it comes to OpenSense, they seem pretty on top of things. So yeah, it seems like a good firewall to run. Only ever heard Homelabbers using it, never seen it in a professional environment. Same. Well, some exceptions. We've seen some like the IT person that had ghosted a company and we've taken over and they're like, what's this thing here? And they've set up like, an unmaintained version of OpenSense or something like that. That was, matter of fact, you can have dumb people get a hold of anything. It's not the product's fault. It's because the product by default doesn't have everything open. One of my favorite ones, now this was a pfSense, by the way, but there's this IT company that's local to us that finally, if you Google their name, the number of people suing them was a higher SEO ranking than their website, which made me giggle a lot. But you can understand as we cleaned up disasters from this company, they were so bad, you understand why they're getting sued. But one of them was a lot of the firewall rules were opened, and it says, I don't know. The comment in the firewall rule was, I'll fix this later. I don't know why this works. I'll fix it later. It was like basically wide open firewall rules. So, oh man. Yeah, LTT, I'm not sure. They went with it because of the driver need, but here's the problem. And I don't know this. This would be an interesting, subject. Is are they maintaining it? Because they need their internet up all the time. How are they keeping that thing up to date? Are they? Because there's a lot more updates to OpenSense. And do they omit or skip those because they're busy doing stuff? I don't know. I'm curious. Migrated smaller ones, shut down 3 of the 5 since there's no real workloads anymore. Can probably get away with 2 or 3 machines and reclaim the floor space and power bill. Yeah. OpenSense has a nice API for programmatically adding WireGuard. Yep. I know they have some API stuff for things like that. I just reconfigured pfSense to use Quad 9. How can we make sure it's working? You can use pftop to see look at everything that's going out over port 53 and see if it's landing where you think it should land. You know, if you go to pftop, you can see all the outbound connections and where things are going. As an SP, do you ever come across companies using consumer hardware, normal desktop PCs, other machines with ECC? Do you immediately get them to change? We see it all the time. Getting them to change is not necessarily always an immediate priority. It comes down to the circumstance. You know, we'll do assessments, we'll make recommendations, but it's not like it's just automatic that we can get them to switch, because it's like it comes down to whether or not you want me to support that. That's one of the very key things. If you say, I would love you to support and maintain this, I'm like, great, we're going to replace that, because if I replace it to not be some desktop, awesome. We actually had a client that wanted support, and it turned out her shipping system for a pretty big warehouse was set up on a laptop by her friend from college. She was a smart entrepreneur with a low budget, and her friend that she graduated with, I think that's where he came from, helped her get this set up. And it, you know, if you've ever seen that like sticker that's been going around as a meme for a long time, like, hey, this runs something important, don't close lid. That was that laptop. It handled all the shipping for all of her import export company. And we told her that's got to go on a real server and be set up properly. And if not, we won't support it. That's kind of what it came down to. And she didn't like what set up properly was going to cost. And it probably is still running her shipping company, which I think is interesting. I haven't heard from her. Zabbix agent and proxy in a container. I imagine you can run it in a container. I've always run it on bare metal, but I think there's probably a Docker version. Does Let's Encrypt open source cert require port 80 open for auto renewal? No, if you are doing like an API call. So if you set it up so it's doing an API call or DNS auth, those are ways that are not going to require that. But if you are doing it like challenge response, then it does require that. So I don't have port 80 open on my system because I'm doing it via an API call to where my DNS is. If you look inside of pfSense, there's a ton of providers that offer that. Matter of fact, oh, I got to add an account key first. Let's see if we type in pfSense. We'll just look right at the docs here. So for in here, they have somewhere rate limit security validation process. So they have all the settings in here for doing the certificate, the different ways you can do it. You don't need, especially if you're doing wildcard certificates, you do not want to have them. Well, I think the only way you can get a wildcard certificate is not with challenge response. You have to do DNS auth for that. Hopefully that makes sense. Can you do a firewall rule with X a DNS name for the target instead of IP? Yeah, I guess I don't understand exactly what you're trying to do though. Do you have any recommendation solutions for SSO on both Linux OS levels, well across various services? Nextcloud, TrueNAS, haven't seen too many good guides on it for SSO. That's because there's not any guides because of the lack of support. It's not that there's not SSO services, it's the integration of a singular SSO service is the problem. If you can't get stuff that's integrated in there and it's not built in, like TrueNAS doesn't have an SSO option, that's really where it comes down to. And how are you going to do SSO with TrueNAS if it doesn't even have an SSO service that it can attach to? And I don't even mean an open source one. I mean, it does not have an SSO service it can attach to. I thought about doing a video explaining that because I think that's the most confusing part is people see these different, and there are some open source SSO systems, but the problem is if there's not integration in each of the products, then it's not going to work. It's not going to solve any of the problems that you're having on there. Matter of fact, I don't even think Pop OS, Ubuntu might, Pop OS maybe. I don't think there's an SSO service for signing into Pop OS. I haven't looked. Maybe there's a way to there's always a way to hack it together, but I don't think natively it supports it, for example. Some insurance companies won't allow open source firewalls. In some cases, I've seen that term and condition in a policy. I have never seen it in the United States for all of our clients that they will not allow open source firewalls. I not something I've run into. Matter of fact, if there is requirements for, because the routers don't even have to have FIPS in some circumstances, provided they're not doing the web filtering. So I've never seen an insurance call out an open source firewall specifically. In reality is almost every firewall out there. Palo Alto runs on FreeBSD along with a bunch of customization. All these big companies, Fortinet's a Linux box, so it's kind of funny to say that for them to actually call it out. Not that I'm saying there's no insurance company that's dumber than some of the other insurance companies, but definitely not something we've run into across our clients. TrueNAS scale is running now. I made a volume, made a share, but no idea what I need to do for smart monitoring on the disks and checking pool health. So the system will check pool health automatically. Smart monitoring, I think people get too excited about that. I don't find it particularly useful. I don't think I've had a smart monitor tell me. Matter of fact, I can tell you specifically with one of our systems, and we're using nice NAS hard drives designed for this workload. Smart has been useless. Matter of fact, Smart passes. I've had a couple drives die on my 45 drive server. We had 2 drives dead, and 0 of those 2 times did Smart tell me anything. Technically, one of the other drives died, but we ended up reformatting it. It worked again. So I don't know if it actually died, but it never had a Smart error. We just reformatted it, moved it to another slot. So we kind of ruled that one out. But generally speaking, matter of fact, we have another client. We don't know. It's just a bad batch of them or something. This was a pretty large one we put in for a client, and we had like 4 drives, I think, went bad. No Smart errors on any of them. ZFS will tell you, though, if there's a problem. There is pool scrubbing that is built into by default. If you go into, I think it's under data protection. Yeah, by default, you're going to have a scrub task. And this scrub task will let you know if there's any problems with the drive. So this is, unless you took it out, and I'm looking at you, Linus Tech Tips. When he lost his large drive array, they had somehow managed to get rid of the scrub task. This will actually verify the integrity, and that's what's more important, is that ZFS and the integrity of the drives in your pool are all good. So the EU insurance companies won't allow an open source firewall. That's weird. Don't know about logging in the OS itself, but I've recently set up Keycloak for SSO for a web-based client app. Also use it for Nextcloud yesterday. Configured Guacamole, supports OAuth and SAML. And that's what it comes down to is, cool if you have that built in. But to my knowledge, let me look here in TrueNAS. I don't think there's any OAuth and SAML built in to TrueNAS. It'd probably be under advanced, right? Console, cron jobs, this control storage sessions. Self-encrypting drives, replication. I don't see anything in here for it. To my knowledge, it doesn't support it. So it comes out. I know Nextcloud does, which is cool, but That reminds me, I should look at my TrueNAS health. Been a few months since I checked. Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea. Probably not a bad idea to do it. I'm a little disappointed so far in CasaOS. I get I thought it looked novel, but I think we're just gonna go ahead and destroy this right here. I don't know. Any reason to keep it? It just seems like it's kind of broken. I'm and it might be because it says it recommends Debian. Maybe if I rebuild it, I'll rebuild it on Debian because that might make more sense. Because what I do have somewhere in here that I've been playing with, where's Portainer? Forgot the IP address of it, so let's copy paste it. I think Portainer is pretty cool, and this is something I think is just a great thing to play with right here. So setting things up in Portainer, 1, it's easy. 2, you can manage multiple servers with it, and 3, it just works out of the box like really, really easy. So I'm happy with how easy it works. Do scrubs also balance the RAID arrays? So unless you are expanding VDEVs, you do not need to balance the RAID arrays. The RAID arrays are automatically balanced. The only time you'll get a RAID array imbalance, and I believe I have a video on this as a topic, you can put a RAID array out of balance by expanding a VDEV and all the data was on the existing VDEVs. The solution for that is to move all the data somewhere and move it back and it'll rebalance. The rebalancing is automated in ZFS. Hello world. So Casa had okay, interesting. Didn't work in LXC. We're just asking Tom questions and Tom's answering them. That's generally what I do. What's my favorite hypervisor? All day, every day is Zen Orchestra. This is where we do everything from our lab work to Tom's work to whatever it is, Tom's projects that he's got going on. That's all done. Hey, I have a Debian 11 lab. I could have used this. I haven't started this in 4 months. But yeah, everything is Zen Orchestra with XCP-ng Zen Orchestra. I've got plenty of videos on it. I got getting started videos. It's fully open source. Yeah, Portainer is just awesome. Ooh, look, new version is available. So we can actually update I don't feel like updating Portainer right now. What about Hyper-V? Yeah, Microsoft's hypervisor. No. No, I'm not a big Hyper-V person at all. Didn't even realize it was a live stream. Love you, Lawrence. Was watching Valorant, but this is much better. Hey, I'll keep it going for a little bit longer. I do know I need to start cooking soon because my wife is going to bug me for she's been doing yard work because of my messed up arm. That's why I'm here doing a live stream too. It's really nice outside. I like to be outside, but I'm kind of limited right now since my motorcycle accident. My bones are still broken. Oh, you dislike Portainer. Ah, comes down to whatever you want. I don't. So the Docker stuff we have running, I'm not running Portainer on it because I run I build everything right in Docker directly, and I don't do that much in Docker every day. So, as you like open source project, have you tried Audio Bookshelf? It's the only one I have found that works well for streaming audiobooks. Interesting. I might look at that. I only listen to them on my phone. So will it work well for listening to them on my phone? And I guess that's the question. I use Downpour on my phone. I buy my audiobooks from Downpour. If you haven't heard of it, it's one of the only places that doesn't have any DRM. Maybe there's another one, but I know Downpour I like because they don't have DRM. Do you have a comparison between Sentinel-1 and Bitdefender? What do you recommend? Sentinel-1. I don't have a comparison because I don't use Bitdefender, but yeah, Sentinel-1 is a far superior project. I've talked to enough people that have moved away from Bitdefender and moved to Sentinel-1 that they think Sentinel-1 is far superior after using both products. For your backups, you trusting health check or still restoring and checking on? Oh, always untested backups are wishful thinking. If you don't go in here once in a while, go find one of your backups of things and restore them. What did we just back up today? We backed up Ubuntu, didn't we? There's my Ubuntu lab server. Let's go ahead and do that now. Let's just do a restore. So restore Ubuntu, find somewhere to send it. All right, so let's full restore. Go ahead. Oh, it's a full backup. Cool. Hit OK. All right, let's go ahead and test it. So I got Portainers set up back in the config, including stacks to min.io on my TrueNAS. Very cool. Pizza time. Pizza sounds good. I'm grilling steak. So glad the feature that Portainer is not locked out. I didn't know it was before. That's neat. Have you tried not breaking bones? Yes, I've definitely tried it. I managed to go almost 50 years. I'm pushing 50, and it's the first time I broke bones. So I think that's impressive. Portainer is great if you just want something simple to manage some containers without thinking too much. How is Yacht for Podman container orchestration? Never used it, so I don't know. About 10 years ago, Canonical made Ubuntu Orange Box. How would you go about making an updated version? I don't know. I never used that either. Preferred brand for enterprise. You know, I always like HGST, but we've had really good luck with Western Digital, and we've had with the enterprise series ones pretty good luck with Seagates and I think it's their Exo series. But like any time, the volume of drives we go through, especially with the 45 drive servers, like we sold some XL60s, a bunch of the 30s, and once you buy that many hard drives, and they were all shipping with Seagate, and we had some go bad. But does that bias me? I don't know. We ended up buying like 100 of them. The best place to figure out hard drive stats is really, really the Backblaze reports. Blaze report. Drive report 2023. Like hands down, this is where you can find out about which drives and really good statistics on them. There's no one that does as good a job as Backblaze that I'm aware of when it comes to breaking down drive statistics. Best way to run XCP&G, VM, or dedicated hardware. I wouldn't virtualize my virtualization platform. So dedicated hardware for sure. Can you please use some videos on router OS? No interest on it. Here's the problem. And everyone asked me this, and first, well, let's actually pull up. You're looking for videos on share his tab instead. Where's in his playlists? So he's got some MikroTik videos somewhere. Is it these ones or Cisco for MikroTik? There we go.
So
one of the problems I have with doing, and you can find these. My problem with MikroTik is always the same. People ask me to do videos because the documentation sucks. It's hard to do videos when the documentation sucks. But when you even look at this person, the networker, I don't know him personally, but he seems to know MikroTik very, very well. And his videos, despite being one of the only ones on MikroTik, just don't get any engagement or views. So for all the effort I would have to put into trying to learn it to something I don't really use, to then create a video on it that no one's going to watch, but a handful of people, doesn't feel like a strong reason to do it. There's a lot of quirkiness of MikroTik, but the Network Berg has videos on there, so that's probably the best resource for them. Do you really need to have a crash to get out of yard work? Yeah, probably. uh, yeah, okay, so your son had it and got the surgery. Cisco VMs in Zen Orchestra environment? I don't see why not. I don't really run any Cisco VMs though, so I don't really know why. Wow, this person just keeps repeating themselves about the router OS stuff. That's funny. Do you see PF Sense doing ADV's firewalls policy, firewall permissions? No. I don't think that's going to be something that they are going to get into. It's niche. I mean, I'm not saying it's not used in enterprise, but most of the enterprise companies are looking for something that can do large scale management of the firewall. And because PF Sense can't do that, there. Yeah, I seen someone ask about Cisco VMs. I'm not sure what they're talking about either. I'm assuming run some Cisco software. I'm broke. I got a mini PC with 3 USB ports. I want to buy 3 external hard drives and make a NAS that will host Jellyfin and other media stuff. Do you think performance will be poor? I think you will have a lot of problems and probably corrupt data if you try to run a NAS across USB. My experience was always very poor running NAS on USB. I did it as a thought experiment and it definitely broke things. It didn't work well. Our restore was successful. Let's see if it actually boots. For those of you that weren't watching, someone asked if I tested my backups. Yes, I do. We're going to test them right now. Here's this backup, restored from backup, fire it up. Let's make sure it works. Untested backups are just wishful thinking. You should try to restore them on a regular schedule. MikroTik has their own YouTube channel as well that doesn't have a lot on it. They tell you about new products that are released, but this is kind of the problem. They're just not a company with great documentation. And I always there's someone in my forum that wrote this. They were a long time MikroTik user that was answering questions in my forum. But one of the write-ups said, MikroTik is that weird device that has terrible documentation, that has some weird incantation that you will find in a forum that you have no idea why it works. You just copy and paste the commands and it does the thing you hoped it would do in a way that is just weird. And I was like, yeah, that's, I've seen a few people joke and say they joke in the forum, something like it's called Latvian logic because they just have a different way of doing it. Okay. That doesn't make it easy to use or easy for people to use. So yeah, it's probably for the Cisco telephony and call center stuff. So as Ray hasn't poked his head in here asking to join. Ray. But either way, our restore is successful, which means we can destroy this. I don't need another copy of it. Remove. Yeah, I do like the XCP&G platform. It just works well for doing all these things. You can see all the backups, which ones were done, how long it took to do them. I did find, and I wonder if this bug still exists. I found a bug in UniFi. I thought I was doing something wrong. Turned out it was UniFi. Oh, Ray Orsini. Yeah, he pops in once in a while. Best way to learn MikroTik is just buy a few since they are cheap, break it, reset it, and keep doing your internal docs. Yes, it's like beat your head against the wall with it. My problem is I don't have enough time to beat my head against the wall of a product because that doesn't really save me much money because my time I feel is better spent on products that have good documentation. I mean, they are cheaper. They have a reasonable price point on them, but for the time, it comes down to what is your time worth is what you're really asking with those. But let's go over to a weird problem I found. Wow, I got a lot of windows open. All right. UniFi downloads. So if anyone runs into this, and I'm going to I don't know who I report it to. I guess I'll just tweet at them. So let's say I want to download the latest version right here that was on July 5th. So we click download. Now, it does indeed download the right version. But what it does over here, they've got this link is broken. This link is to a old version right here. So if you're someone like me that might go copy link and put it in to download, you'll find yourself with the wrong version because the version it downloads isn't the same as that download link. That was an interesting problem. I got a tweet. I just found this out the other day. So when I was fixing something for someone, and I'm like, "What am I doing wrong?" It keeps telling me I'm loading the wrong version, and I realize the link is just broken. Do you have TNSR somewhere, production, or in a lab? No, I just haven't had the time to play with it or the interest. Um, so no, not at this time. Is there a way to? Yes. I always have a hard time seeing that word. QS. Disk and IO during backups that aren't disk writes. Does Zen have VM tools agent? Yes, there's an agent loaded that does help with that. So, for example, if you're running something in Windows and you got the tools loaded, yes, it should be fine to be able to do that. I actually go a slightly different route. And we look at the backups here. If we edit this backup, I don't mind doing it. And this is obviously not for everyone. Let me go to share this tab. One of the things you can do is set the snapshot to be in offline mode. And what that means, and here, I'll show you how I do a backup of my UniFi controller right now in real time, my production UniFi controller. So let's go ahead and reset this. We'll go back over to my UniFi, and we're going to incremental offsite backup of UniFi. We're going to go ahead and run the backup job. There we go. All this is going to do is stop this, bring it to a full stop, and then restart it. I do this with a lot of my systems, and I'm fine with that as an answer because I don't mind rebooting them at odd hours. If I wanted to set this up as an automation, I'll do it some off hours, do this automation so it will do it. And it's only off just long enough to grab that off state snapshot so I don't have to worry about any data in flight. So that is anything you got with databases, that is always a concern. So this is my go-to solution for solving that problem without, I do have the proper things loaded, but this thing's going to be down for what? I know I've been talking for maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So 30, 40 seconds. Oh, there it's back up and running. 30 or 40 seconds of downtime is worth it to me to not worry about any of the problems that may come from grabbing data that's in flight. Cheap way to learn VMware disaster recovery would be buying those Lenovo thin clients. Sure. Backups built in next to you never use it. If so, is that a plus in the book? Maybe you should try. Yes. I really like the fact that the backups are so integrated and they're just smooth. Being able to set all the parameters, and the relationship with the backups is also the fact that you can have multiple backups. So this backup encompasses, kind of like it sounds, full backup of everything. This one's only an incremental backup of the UniFi. If you look, different devices have different backups in here. Actually, we're going to go ahead and suspend this one. When was the last time I did a backup of this one? 5 months. Nothing changes on it. That's why it's been a while for the backup. But it is part of this backup, so I can look at what these are successful. But having all this built in to quickly know when something was done, when a backup was done of these devices is just really slick. Would you be concerned if NAS has smart errors for current sector, current count, unrecoverable errors 1 and 4, both Ironwolf management and the drive analyzers say everything is healthy? I've definitely seen drives that misreport. The problem with smart is it gets misreported because the tools that read it may not be aligned with the manufacturer who made it, and the specs may be out and it's reading the wrong thing. If you listen to 2.5 Admins, the last episode, well, hold on, I'll say the episode number because I laughed that it was a great topic. But if you listen to 2.5 Admins and we go to podcasts, which episode was it? 2.5 Admins, episode, I believe it was either 152 or 151, probably episode 152. They were talking about how their drive keeps saying there's errors because the smart is reading the temperature status as one of the error positions. It's just reading it wrong. So it's one of those problems. So no, I would trust the software that is made for the drive more than I would trust smart. If you copy and paste it from the previous screen, that works. All right. Why do you prefer XCBD or Proxmox? Thanks for the USB answer. Scalability, built-in backups that are really, really well integrated and smooth. And it's used in the enterprise a lot. We have a lot of enterprise clients using it. So it's been a really popular. I think it's a more flexible and, well, more scalable system. It's flexibility is debatable because the Debian being built that Proxmox is built on offers a lot of flexibility. So I wouldn't say Proxmox is inflexible, but definitely Zen Orchestra is just a really solid tool. There's nothing wrong with Proxmox. If you like using it, thumbs up. It works good. Cisco has VMware images for some of their products. For example, converting and importing Zen Orchestra has not been successful. Never tried it, so I just don't know. I'm moving from Microtech to PF Sense as I can't be bothered to learn what those bloody jump chains are. So video on how to set up GPUs. There's documentation on how to do it, but I don't have a video on it. I don't ever really use GPU pass-through. Do you run Graylog in a VM or Docker or just a tutorial video? Are you using packages or is it the preferred way? We actually have it. It's a dedicated VM and it is running in Docker. So I call it Graylog Docker because it's a singular VM that runs Docker because it's just an easier way to get it updated. But yeah, it works great. It is very similar to the way I did it in my demo video. Is almost, well, the only thing different is going to be like I'm using an NFS mount for all the data. Wazoo for Homelab. I think it's going to be a steep learning curve, but worth it. It's a good tool. It's neat. I would definitely recommend playing with it. I don't see any reason not to use it. I used to listen to Packet Pushers, the Data Nuts podcast. If you listen to it, any other recommendations, similar podcasts. The podcasts I listen to, technical ones, are going to be is 2.5 Admins, Risky Business, Security Now, sometimes Bad Voltage. Unsupervised learning's not bad. Sometimes This Week in Google, Darknet Diaries. And that's about it for my technical podcasts. Most of my tech news I read. The Dell Dual E5207 32 gig RAM and dual 1 gig is good enough for a gig PF Sense firewall. Probably. I don't know how old that processor is. Compare it to the speed of the processors that Netgate uses, and you'll get an idea. Netgate, if you go look at their appliances, they tell you what processor. Do a comparison by looking up CPU mark on the processors they suggest and the speeds that they're getting, and compare that to what your CPU benchmarks at. My XCPG, I'm running out of words here. XCPNG local array failed. Pull metadata backup failed due to new UID. Still have my VM backups, so all recovered well. Yeah, make sure you have backups. That's what it's all about. Make a YouTube short of my favorite podcast. That's not a bad idea. How is the discoverability of shorts? I notice shorts when I search for things never get found, but maybe I don't look for things that are in short form content. I see a few good shorts. I see a whole lot of dumb shorts. I feel like it's the dumbing down of things when I see too many shorts because TikTok has some good info, but has a lot of just dumb garbage on it that I don't have an interest in. And I'm hoping that doesn't come to the YouTube platform. There's already enough dumb on it because it's actually funny. Wendell had mentioned this, and I believe completely. Like someone asked Wendell, like, what should I do about getting on YouTube? And he's like, create more how-tos and things that you're passionate about. We don't need more dumb things on the internet. Everyone tries to just like, hey, let's do reaction videos, prank videos. I just dislike all of that as a content category. Much of them are just overrated, and I prefer. I'm a nerd, so I want nerdy things. Proxmox has a very restrictive sounding license. If you wrote or used anything that communicated with it, then you have to release the code as I read the license. Your browser, for example. I don't know. I never read the license, so I don't know anything about the Proxmox license to have an opinion on that. As far as I know, it's open source, but I don't know the details. But I do know that this has been going for an hour and a half, so I'm going to wind it down because one, I'm out of water, and two, it's time to start firing up the grill because I know the wife wants some food. I bet there's a message from her about that. Not yet, but I know there will be, as I told her I'd be cooking by 3, which means I have to light the grill now. I'm old school when it comes to cooking, and I'm all about, real wood fire. So can we find a picture of my grill? There we go. So if I'm cooking, it's going to be on like an open fire, spending some time on it. I'm doing steaks. This is smoking some ribs the other day. So what what else did I got? What else does it think's a grill picture? Do I have a good steak picture? But somewhere. Anyways, it's always got to be real fire. Real fire bus, man. I don't this is the one spot that I don't want gadgets or anything like that. I want it all to be, old school, if you will, for doing this. I do put a temperature thing in it, but I don't think that's the same. I thought I had a video of it. Oh well. We'll just leave that picture up there because why not? It's ribs. Yeah, we got steaks for today though. But nonetheless, love hearing from all of you. I'm just staring at it, kind of like I'm hungry. By the way, I didn't eat yet today, so it's time to eat because it's about 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, and I'm in Detroit, so that means we are in Eastern Standard Time. So I'm gonna go deal with grill things. Thank you all for joining. Hit me up in the forums. Hit me up on whatever the hell they call Twitter today, and whatever the hell it's called tomorrow. If you want to say hi over there. Wherever you want to find me, but I keep my forums because I don't change the name of my forums or rebrand it very often. I don't know what's going on over at the Twitter. I used to tell people to hit me up there, but who knows? Because by the way, it turns out that you can also just randomly lose your account and they can just rename it to different things. Because why not? Why not? Whatever's going on over there. I hope they're having fun. All right. Thanks everyone, and see you next time.